This meeting of the Margate Planning Board is called to order. Please rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
She gives me all that stuff. Oh, here it is. Thank you. You want to take the roll call?
Sure. Take roll. Tom Collins?
Here.
Clem Wazleski?
Here.
Rich Patterson?
Here.
Michael Costaldi? Jim Galantino?
Here.
Margaret Gubernalti?
Here.
Craig Palmisano?
Here.
Despina Hess?
Here.
Remy Pelosi? Joe DiGirolamo?
Here.
Ron Gruppo? Michael Richmond? Okay.
This meeting is being held in accordance with due public notice thereof and pursuant to the New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the press, and a copy of same has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. All applicants are hereby, we have no applicants tonight, right?
Correct.
I'd like to hear a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes unanimous.
Who made the motion?
Tom made the motion and Jim second. Here's the agenda. I'd like to hear a motion for approval of decisions and resolutions, number 33, 2018, Richard and Leslie Steinberg, number 34, 2018, Michael and Nora Epson, number 35, 2018, Richard and Lori Goldstein, number 36, 2018, Janie Scheller, number 37, 2018, Gary and Andrea Schwartz, number 38, 2018, Daniel and Susan Davis. Your motion?
Actually, let me interrupt, Mr. Chairman. I just want to be clarification on Davis. It's my understanding, I missed the meeting, I apologize for that, but that wall is to be removed. That's the intent of the board
Yes.
as part of the denial.
Yes.
Now,
Craig?
they are allowed to elevate up to 10 inches for the patio and still be fully compliant with the ordinance. So
But
they
the
can-
fence still has to be inside the property line, correct?
The fence has to be inside the property line, but what I'm getting at is one course of block is allowed to remain as part of that patio, as long as it's less than 10 inches or less. The fence on top of that would have to comply with a maximum of 6 feet above existing grade from the exterior.
Exterior.
Correct. I just want to be clear on that. If they come in with a revised set of plans so they can get the demo permit and continue, I just want to be clear.
What material is it?
Concrete block is what you're saying. But if the fence is on top of that, wouldn't that be part of the fence then?
No, the height of the fence cannot exceed
I'm
6 feet.
talking about being inside. The fence has to be inside the property line. The wall is on the property line.
Right, so the fence on top of that will be inside of that.
Isn't that part of the fence then, if the fence is on top of that?
Well, I felt that a wall could be a fence, but
But we didn't.
Roger, what you're saying is that they're taking all the block down but for one,
one course, which is
making
8
a
inches, they're allowed
hardscape.
the 2-inch cap on top of that, then there'll be a fence on top of that, and the total height of that fence from the existing grade next door cannot exceed 6 feet.
Okay, that's what we were,
So 5.5 of that is vinyl, 8 inches of it is concrete.
Okay.
but the fence height is grade from curb, right?
No, grade.
No, no.
No.
Because you can build your grade way up in the back.
No, existing grade is grade before improvements.
Okay.
That's a definition.
Just for all, the neighbors are gonna come in on the drainage on that.
Okay.
That's the only thing that, you know.
But that's not an issue for us. That's something the building code has to,
Building department,
him. Yeah.
If someone went in-
It's a
okay.
neighboring property, right? Neighboring grade?
Neighboring grade.
Neighboring grade, not their grade, not interior grade, neighboring grade. And that's where the road-
Well,
No,
it reads
existing grade.
Existing neighboring grade.
Existing their
pre-existing
grade.
Yes.
Pre-construction.
Not neighboring. The existing grade on the property is before construction. So if 6 inches goes up with a block wall, then the fence can go up 5.5. Aren't we saying the same thing?
Yes.
But then, where their water's running off, they've got, that's the only thing.
They brought that up at the meeting, and they said they will have a system that the water won't run off of it.
I'd like to remind everyone, if they have something to say, to please talk in the microphone. Thank you, Johanna.
So are we clear on that then?
Clear as mud. Yes.
You need a motion?
I'm
No, no,
No,
no.
no, no.
That's not a
making
motion.
a motion to approve
No.
the applications.
Which application?
The
One
resolution.
you just read.
Oh. Do I hear a motion?
I make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes unanimous.
Mike Richmond.
And we'll just note.
Oh, Mike Richmond has arrived.
Yeah, and he'll be an abstention from that just because he wasn't here for the discussion. And then anyone who wasn't here last month or who didn't participate in those applications are technically abstentions also.
Is anyone here from the public that has anything to discuss? All right, other business, we need to discuss the proposed changes to the 175 zoning ordinance. I went through this again today, and I had like 6 different things, but everything was corrected except that one thing with the garage. We discussed at the last meeting about keeping garages 5 feet away from their own structure, and we decided 3 was okay, and that's going to be changed to 3 feet.
Again, I just want to point out, 3 feet was never in the ordinance before. It was ad hoc. So now we're going to change that and make it an ordinance that it is 3 feet. So
Well,
there's no
apparently you
question.
could have gone less than 3 feet before, but
It could have been almost touching.
I think everybody's happy with 3 feet. That's what has pretty much been enforced, hasn't it? Hasn't it, that they've been 3 feet? So we're just putting it in
I think
context
3
that it
feet's
will
a
be
little
3
tight,
feet.
but that's the willingness of the board.
Huh? Yes, 175-33.
Okay.
So, what, can we just talk while we're talking?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so while we're on that subject,
Get the mic on?
is it? Yeah.
Change it 5 feet to 3 feet.
The setback now for accessory structures, we're saying it's gonna be a foot,
Correct.
but that's gonna include the overhang, so it's gonna be more like 15 inches, right? Or is-
If you have it, that's what the way it's worded is, it's from the closest to the property line, even if it's the eve.
Right, so
Does
it's
that
gonna be
include the gutter?
The building's gonna be
No.
11 inches that night? Didn't we pick 11 inches that night with 6-inch overhang and 5-inch gutter? The one
I'm
night
just-
that we did that on.
I don't remember, but I'm just saying it's gonna be a minimum. And are we, what about gutter? Is gutter gonna be included in that?
Well, that's what we
setback?
did. We
But
did
then
the
you
6
put a
inches
gutter on
and
it,
the
now you're
gutter.
talking like.
Like, we didn't do anything. This is it to do tonight, so.
Right.
That was for a
No,
case that
it's
we
for a case.
decided, and Mike recommended that for the one homeowner, and the board unanimously approved
What did he recommend?
that we had
6 and
11
5.
inches, 6 and 5.
Well, this is a foot, but that includes the
It
eave.
goes to the foundation.
That
It
includes
allows
the
for
eave.
gutters and downspouts and all that stuff.
Right.
So
What
if-
happens is, they build it, then they put the eave on, then the gutter, and the gutter's on the next door neighbor's property, and it
Right.
drains on the neighbor's property.
So you're saying the wall,
The wall is 12 inches.
When they do a foundation survey, as-built survey, that wall has to be 12 inches in. That-
No, that's not what you're saying. You're saying the edge of the eave had to be 12 inches in, didn't you?
Well, that's
Yeah,
where it'll
that's
be.
what it says on the thing, and I don't agree with that.
go ahead.
I mean, I think the building should be 12 inches.
That's what we're saying.
And then-
Right.
Right.
Well, that's not what
But
it
that's
says,
not
so we
what it
need to.
says here.
Well, then then we need to change that.
Yeah.
Because it says the eve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
it does in here.
Where is
The
that?
building or any.
That same area? I think it's the same,
D,
I think garages.
it's
it's B,
D,
D?
Yes.
the same, 175-33.
Yeah, I see. 1 foot setbacks to the side of the rear property line, so setbacks are,
Then you should define what can extend into that
no, you
12
just,
inches and how far,
no, you don't.
such
It's-
as the fascia and the gutter and so on.
No,
That shouldn't have
the
been,
face of the building is, after that, it can be
Just
taken
scratch
out.
out or any roof over.
Yes, whichever is close to the property line, so stop after the face of the building.
175-33.
That's not what-
7D.
That's not what Mike wants.
7D.
Mike, who?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
1 foot setback is required from the side.
Isn't that what you want? The face of the building?
The face of the building,
12
not the
inches.
face of the fascia.
Right, that's what you want. That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. Take
Yes.
out any roof overhang,
Yes, thank you.
Where before it was 0.
say that again.
It was 0 before.
Yes.
Right. Now, foot's fine, but don't start pushing it back with the fascia and all this stuff.
Face of, yes.
Okay.
And anything can hang into that foot up to the property line? The gutter,
Well, you have the eave and the gutter.
As long
which
as the
can project
gutters,
into the 12 inches.
Correct.
yes,
Now, you ought to say
As long
that.
as it can't encroach.
But can't encroach on,
That is
That
in
should
it.
be said, so
It
it's
is in
not hanging in
there.
there.
It does say.
Good.
It says no encroachments.
No encroachments, right. A 1 foot setback is required.
or drainage, right.
I did prepare a consistency report, if you want me to read that on the record. It's basically to the board and to the governing body. Proposed ordinance revisions, land use ordinance number 17-2018. The proposed ordinance provides revisions that bring the ordinance into more consistent for review and reduce hardships, for example, caused by pre-existing conditions on adjoining properties, as an example. The ordinance revisions are consistent with the master plan recently adopted by the planning board. Several variances have already been revised, or several ordinances have already been revised as mechanical ordinances that needed immediate attention. The ordinance also creates an overlay zone for condo hotel use within a portion of the CBD, MF, and GO zones between South Monroe Avenue and Cedar Grove Avenue, bounded by Atlantic Avenue and the beach. The Board of Commissioners has introduced the ordinance on first reading. The city clerk has provided a referral that the ordinance has been advertised according to law and shall be scheduled to have a second reading and public hearing on the next available commissioner meeting, likely September 6, 2018. The municipal land use law provides the planning board with 35 days from the referral date to prepare, review, adopt, and transmit their consistency report regarding ordinance 18-2018 to the City Board of Commissioners. NJS 40:55D-26 describes the planning board's responsibility regarding the master plan consistency review as follows. The planning board shall make and transmit to the governing body within 35 days after referral a report including identification of any provisions in the proposed development, regulation, revision, or amendment which are inconsistent with the master plan and recommendations concerning those inconsistencies with any other matters as the board deems appropriate. Furthermore, Ordinance 18-2018 advances the following objectives from the Margate City Master Plan. Bullet point 1, to review the city's history, document progress towards prior goals and objectives, and develop plans and strategies for how the city can continue to adapt, and thrive in the future. Bullet point number 2, from prior master plans, address concerns about bulk and mass that arose after adoption of the 2004 plan. Prior planning goals were renewed, revised, abandoned where appropriate. Thirdly, upon review of the master plan efforts, it became evident that items that were priorities of prior plans are no longer concerns, and items that are significant concerns now are not mentioned in prior planning efforts. This can be expected to some degree when reviewing prior master plan efforts in any community. However, the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy, or Superstorm Sandy, has shifted the discussion and priorities of many coastal communities, including Margate. The steps that a coastal community such as Margate must take to ensure its long-term existence has been taken for granted until recently. Section 4.5.5 of the city's adopted master plan recommends the creation of several new zones, one of which is a boutique condo hotel overlay zone. Section 4.5.6 recommends several changes to the general development regulations. Therefore, I have carefully reviewed and analyzed ordinance 18-2018 and the master plan. Based on this review, it is my professional opinion that ordinance 18-2018 is consistent with the Margate City Master Plan. Respectfully submitted, Roger McLaren.
Now, that would include the changes tonight, correct?
Correct.
All right.
can we talk about more stuff?
Yes.
Okay, so in the resort hotel, I think it's the first time it's mentioned, there's a limit of 20 nights. You can't stay longer than 20 nights. Who picked that number and why?
That's a standard number, and it's only for those units that are dedicated.
Right.
It promotes turnover. Otherwise, you're gonna have people bunking out for quite a long time.
Well, no, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a limit, but like 20 nights just seems, I mean, there might be people coming down in the summer that want to stay more than 20 nights.
Well, you don't stay in hotels 20 nights. The purpose isn't for condos for the people, the purpose is for hotel rooms, so visitors have a place to stay.
Okay.
Can I address a question on that?
Yes.
Sometimes in the off-season, you may want to be able to allow extended stay in the area where something may take place, and therefore 20 nights would not be sufficient to be able to do that. You know, in a case where somebody wanted to do extended stay for some work they were doing, staying for 20 or 30 days.
I think there should be a limit to it, because I think one of the things we're trying to avoid is, you know, people staying there for 9 months and putting their kids in school.
Well, what we're trying to promote is,
But, you know, I think that, you know, Joe has a point. I mean, you might have, I don't know, people coming, you know, I just don't know. I think, to me, 20 days sounds like, and I get your point too, Rich, about the, you know, you want turnover, and the purpose of the thing is so we have turnover and blah, 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 but I don't know, I'm just throwing it out. I don't really-
Would it be, do you think it'd be acceptable if that was, that 20 days was from May 1st to September 30th?
I think you should keep it as is.
I think it's meant as hotel rooms, and
Right,
if they go somewhere else, I mean,
It's
Just as a clarification, if, for example, in the wintertime, somebody's down with a project for a casino and they need to stay for
Right.
45 days, okay?
They can rent
They're-
another unit in the
They're
same
gonna
building.
rent a hotel room, and then the guy's gonna say, your time limit's up, we're gonna put you in another hotel
he'll
room.
go somewhere else.
This is where they're going, I disagree.
Right, they'll go
with
to
this
another
whole-
room.
They could literally check
One
out.
at a time,
Leave it-
one at a time.
Leave it
Mike?
at leave it at the
At
20 days.
Right.
Leave it at the 20 days. If they want to stay for an extended 40 days, they're just going to change the name. They're not going to worry about what our ordinance
And that's
reads.
not our problem.
Room
And that's
or
not our
whatever.
problem.
Exactly.
So we could leave it at
Yes.
the 20 days, and it wouldn't
Well,
matter.
for instance, the Army Corps rented a house for their employees.
Right.
So I see the same thing. And the whole intent of that is to, say you have a 5-bedroom house and you're having a reunion party or something like that. You have overflow now, you have capacity somewhere else. You can stay for 10 days without renting a whole nother house or something.
Right.
We're going to Atlantic City or going to Ocean City or Summers Point.
I don't think you should do the monthly consideration. I think you should just,
No,
like you said, leave it
yeah, I
for the
agree.
year. And I like the idea because it's not meant for long-term residents. We want them to be 3-night visitors, 2-night visitors, so keep it at 20 or
Yeah.
less. I wouldn't go ever more.
I agree.
Can you
We've got-
clarify for me the percentage exactly and how that's going?
But that was my question. How many rooms are they gonna have for hotel?
20%.
Excuse me?
20% of the rooms,
Of-
Only
Of
20%
20%?
The total volume would be dedicated for short-term rentals.
I think you had to, can we?
Mr. Ramadeo, you have to
Come be
come
sworn in.
talk.
The only reason why I want to comment is
Well, you can't comment, John, until you're sworn in. Let him,
Okay.
if you're sworn in.
John, name and address.
John Amadeo, 8213 Amherst Avenue.
Swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I was involved with the meetings through the course of the master plan. So just to give some insight, the master plan recommended, because Margate back in the 50s and 60s were massive motels. We've lost that concept in the city of Margate. So the idea was to allow, and to answer Mike and Joe's question, the rest of the building could be, if you're a condo owner, you could rent and lease for the year, for 6 months, 9 months. But we want to dedicate 20% of the total amount of rooms to be available 12 months of the year,
Amount of rooms or square footage?
amount of rooms.
So is a condo unit one room?
The
condo is-
specifications are in the ordinance about how, the size of the rooms.
understand.
Yes.
So, John, you know it, so explain it to me.
No, Roger knows it also.
Right.
A condo unit, whether it's a 1 or 2 bedroom,
Right.
if a family wanted to rent, come and spend 2 weeks here, they could do it. But it doesn't preclude the rest of the building from entering into long-term leases or even 6 or 9 month leases.
So which units are the hotel portion?
At
20%.
any time during the course of a season, 20% of whatever just say there's 200 rooms.
Oh, you mean so there's 200 condo units?
If just say there were 200, 40 would have to be, am I correct, Roger?
Right.
40 would have to be available for rent.
And could they vary?
As like,
The
Yes.
unit numbers can
Yeah,
vary as
yeah.
long as,
So they're not
it's in the
dedicated.
building, the entire building.
who controls that?
It would be the management company running the building. In other words, you're gonna have a 24-hour-a-day manned desk. It's just like a hotel, and just like any of the condos along the boardwalk that have,
I'm still talking, you can
Right.
talk after me.
it's just like if you walked in and you just say you didn't have reservations, you went in and said, look, I want a condo
No, I'm
for
saying,
2
so at
days.
any one time, 20% of all the units are available, but they could change daily which ones
No.
are available.
Exactly.
They can?
That's
Yeah.
what he's saying, that's
Yes.
what I'm trying to
As
get.
long as they meet the criteria in the ordinance, like they can't have laundry facilities.
So wait a minute, so
Yeah,
you're
that's what I'm
saying,
talking about.
can I say something?
No, wait a minute, she has something.
All right,
Say
go
something.
ahead.
So it says in here somewhere, no laundry facilities. So at any time, any one of 20% of,
But those units have laundry facilities.
Yeah, they have, no.
well, that's what I'm,
Listen,
that's what's
it-
confusing
it's,
to me.
think of a boutique hotel concept.
Right.
When you go in there, you don't change your linens, you don't change your it's done as a service. That will be provided through this,
Right, but they're not dedicated units as 20%. It could be 1A, 16B,
yes, it doesn't make a difference.
so no units have washing facilities.
No,
The
no.
washer and dryer, they'll all have washers. and
Yeah,
dryers.
every unit will have, but
In their own private one, just like a regular home.
you're not gonna
There's
buy a
nothing like
condo in this day and
downstairs.
age
Without.
without.
Of course not.
They'll be designed in the building.
John, you're missing the point, though. If this says you can't have laundry facilities in the hotel unit, then which ones could be hotel units?
It doesn't say you can't
It
have.
does.
I thought you just said that.
Yeah, it
does
does.
say
It
that.
does. That's what I'm
John,
saying.
listen, basically, if anybody knows hotel, Joe, you've worked in the hotel, what they're gonna do is they're gonna sell 80% of those units as condos.
Correct.
Wow, I don't,
The other 20, listen to me,
I don't
that's
believe
what they do. The other 20%, they're gonna sell as a condo hotel room. Person gets to use that condo hotel room 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out of a year. The rest of the time it's available.
no. Tom, if that's the case, then we need the list of those 20%, and that's the units that can be rented as hotel rooms.
It doesn't, they're gonna set them aside.
Well,
then it's
whatever
specific
unit owner
units.
doesn't want to, will not use them as such.
But
Exactly.
What
Then
I'm
it
saying
doesn't-
is, the ones that are permanent are gonna
Tom,
be sold.
no, listen, he said it could be any unit at any time. You're saying it has
Roger,
to
am
be
I correct in
specific
saying
units.
that? It's 20% of the total
Percent.
number of units in the building would be set aside for a daily rental rate.
Can I interject for you, John?
With certain sizes, I don't think it's, if there's 200 rooms, you can use 20% of any room in that
Okay,
hotel. I think it's 20% of those rooms have to be set aside
right.
for hotel space.
So that means
They're
it's
gonna be
20
smaller than the
specific
usual
rooms.
condo units
Right.
Like
and
the
timeshare
flagship
units.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
And as
that.
far as a washer and dryer, we have no say over that.
John, wait a minute. So what we're saying is, it is 20%, those specific rooms have to be set aside. That's the way it's worded here.
Not any.
And that could be the units, they don't.
Don't have laundry, right.
You need to get rid of that no washer and dryer thing.
Yeah,
If
master
you don't
plan,
allow washers and
Yeah, but if your
dryers,
unit's only 350 square feet, do you want to have to
It's a
have?
hotel room.
Right.
it says minimum of
You're gonna have maid
1
service.
bedroom.
For instance, if somebody wants to come in and change that, they can request a variance. We don't know what's coming in yet.
But we
have no
need
idea
it
what's-
clarified whether it's 20% specific units. That makes sense if it's 20% specific units, John, and I, no,
The reason
it's
for
not
John
what he
saying
said.
that is, the 20% was a bank rule. They're not gonna be able to get any bank money unless you do that
that's
portion
exactly,
of it.
that's exactly the key to the whole thing.
Exactly, right.
That's the 20%
The
comes
funding
from.
will never come through for any developer, and in other words, for him to be able to, whoever's gonna invest and develop a condo hotel setup would need to have financing, and they're not gonna give financing based just on hotel rooms.
Given, so you understand then that it is 20% or specific units, not any unit, anytime?
I sort of thought, didn't we agree that as long as 20% of the total number of rooms was set aside, it didn't make a difference specific numbers, they could be, like, just let me give you a personal example. I
Right.
stayed in the Westin in Hoboken. The Westin in Hoboken, the first 5 floors, it's a 18-story building, the first 5 floors are strictly dedicated hotel rooms, not owned by individual people.
Right.
The rest of the building is owned by individual people, it's all condos.
That makes sense.
That's it.
Right.
Now, I thought when we sat down at the table and we were discussing it, Roger, that we said as long as, see, just say the building sells totally out and there's 200 units. At any given time, 20% of those units would have to be available for a hotel.
Is that what you're saying?
But the person who buys them would.
What's the
want-
wording in?
No,
what's the wording?
what the bottom line is, 80% of the units would be sold as fee simple, single-family condos. That would finance a project. The 20% set aside would be smaller units, like the place you were talking about, on the lower floors. And then if somebody, like a timeshare, but if you want to come in and say, hey, I want to buy a unit, but I can only use it for 2 weeks out of the year, and the rest of the time it has to be available as a hotel. They do that all over Florida, down by where we are and you are. So that set aside, we don't need to know what the set aside is, it just has to be 20%. And if
Label.
anybody's a good businessman, he's going to put them on the lower floors, because the more up you go, the more expensive they are.
Tom, wait a minute, but at some point, when it's built and sold, you need to know which those 20% are.
Right.
Well, no, that's not what you're saying, so
No,
that's what,
I'm saying we don't need to
So why don't you-
identify each unit, it just has to be 20%. They're going to do it.
well, it has to be identified at the time of
Right.
building it.
I'm going
I
with the
agree.
Galway.
That's not what they're saying.
I agree. They should be identified when the construction is taking place, that the floors 1, 2, 3, 4 are dedicated for that. And then,
Well, it's gonna be prior to construction. They have to come in front of the board. The board's gonna see everything that they propose.
right, that makes sense.
John, if you're condo owners, like everybody down here, you don't want hotel people coming in out next to you.
Exactly.
So
So
that's a good point. Okay.
I think the 20% should be identified as hotel units. Now, would they be sold as condos too?
They could be.
They could be.
And they would have to be still set aside. Totally, 20% of the building would have to be available as rentals, 365 days a year.
Units.
I don't know how that would work. I mean, how can you sell a hotel room?
They do it now.
It's like a timeshare.
They do it now
So they get
uptown,
to use it.
flagship.
Places to go in. We stay there every year. That's 18 floors, 14 floors, and every one of them is a condo. But every one of them's for rent.
Right.
And you can stay there for 2 weeks, you can stay there for 4 weeks. When nobody's there, the owners come in. The whole place is rental. But you're not gonna get the bank money on it. They're big guys doing that stuff.
Right.
What we're doing is,
What you need to do here is allow for the bank to be able to loan the money to
Exactly.
move a project.
that's their, that's
Exactly.
their.
But the other 80% can be rented as well. As
Correct.
an
Well,
owner, I
they're
can rent
condos. They
my
could
own-
rent them
Well,
out.
listen, you're the board.
They'll
Yeah.
have to make
The
condo
decision and the
docs.
change that you feel comfortable with has to come from this discussion.
Right.
I know our discussions were several months ago.
We removed a lot of serious restrictions where this ordinance wouldn't mean anything. Nothing will be done.
Right.
You don't wanna,
John, I just want all of us on the same page
Hey.
with what you think it is.
Well, and again, in the big picture, we want to be able to create a family. We have a second hometown now. 65% of the homes in the town are second homeowners, which we welcome them. There are people, they're here. We want to be able to have the ability for families. We now have a family attraction, which has been very successful thanks to the support of this planning board, allowing us to put a miniature golf course. Because when Richie and I grew up here, we had, what, 4 golf courses? 4. We played golf, that's how we stayed out of trouble. Maybe we didn't stay out of trouble. But see, that's all good. And we have Atlantic City on the verge of turning around, and there are people that want to come to Atlantic City, but they don't want to stay in, if they're bringing their kids, they're staying in Ocean City, Avalon South. Why wouldn't we have the opportunity to allow that to families to come to our town? And the more people that see our town, the better we prosper. So,
Does this, as it's worded, does this let us, when they come before us, to say this area, a certain area needs to be dedicated?
again, it's going to come back in front of you, in front of the board. I just want to clarify the wording that you put in there.
We're okay with that.
Okay, that's all I care about. Thank you, Chair.
And again, once the applicant, whoever developer wants to pursue this type of development, they're going to show what they want to build.
Right.
You may see a configuration where they have a two-bedroom unit with washer and dryer facilities with a one-bedroom lockout that meets the criteria of a hotel room.
Right.
I don't know that. It's up to the designer. But as long as they meet the intent of this
We're
ordinance.
done with questions. It's up to the chairman.
Which we
Thank you,
need the
Mr. Chairman.
20% set aside.
This is off a little bit. Do we have a ruling on Airbnbs right now, or nothing, just open?
Not that I know of.
Microphone, please.
No.
I asked for a
The
ruling on
answer is no.
Airbnb.
You got to talk to it, though.
What ruling?
Yeah,
If there
not-
was any ruling that we are allowed or not allowed Airbnbs, there's
Well,
other
no.
cities that are now
Why,
barring
is there a problem?
Airbnb.
Is there a
Key
problem with
West,
Airbnbs?
Boston,
Yes.
just didn't know if
No. Thank
Yes.
you.
Do we need at this stage, I understand that when they.
Stay, John, we're still talking the same thing. I have a question.
If a developer comes before us with a proposal as far as that boutique hotel, do we need at this stage to put in a language that they need to be designated? Because I feel like it'll make the private
It isn't.
units more valuable if they're separated from the hotel units. Because like you said, you don't want that turnover.
Well, again, we're giving a lot of flexibility and leverage to the developer because they're going to know better than anyone else.
They
what's
want to
gonna
make the
work.
most money.
Right. But is there something we know right now that we don't?
I don't think we
know?
want to say, all right, you have to put all the hotel units on the top 2 floors. We don't want to do that. We don't want to say you have to put on the bottom 2 floors.
But do we want to have separate floors? Whatever floors they choose, but separate floors.
But again, it goes to, what if they have a 2-bedroom unit with a wash and dry facilities and have it next to a 1-bedroom lockout? They're going to be next to each other. We can't dictate that.
But that's also the developer decides, we're not going to sell the condos if there's hotel rooms right next to it. They're going to try to do the best thing for them to make the condo people. They're making their money selling the condos, so we're giving them the leeway to make them, people want to buy the condos. And I don't think they're going to want to put hotel rooms in between every condo.
So, okay, that answers that. So we know that we're not going to tell them now where to designate where they go, but we want to say they need to be designated. 20% rooms need to be designated. Should we say that now?
They'll be, when they do their presentation in front of the board, that's one of the questions we're going to ask them. They're
Yes.
gonna have
So
to-
things
We
meet-
can say, yes, it has to be.
It's in
gotta come back.
language now,
Gotta come
20%
back.
of the build, of the
Never come
development
in.
has to be hotel rooms.
It says it has
I
to
mean,
be
it's in
available.
there.
It doesn't say, it says it has to be available, not designated. Right?
It has to be available.
Available, not designated.
Well, I
Well, we're going to make sure
So
it's
that
not going to
allows
be
for
different units
flexibility.
at different times.
That's
That
what
would,
we want.
but I really don't think they want it. I think
Doesn't make
they're going to
sense.
want what we want. They're going to want it to be a nice condo place that people want to buy, so they can make money on it.
So the question Despin is putting up is actually a pretty good question. Do we want it to be available or do we want it to be designated? I think
Actually,
she's right.
both. You need both.
I think it needs to
Available
be
and designated.
available and designated, only for the fact that we, like John said, we want hotel rooms for people to
Right.
come and stay in town.
Do you have a problem with putting that in?
Is that
And
designated?
do you have
Is
a
it
problem with
too
that wording, available and designated?
I think we had similar language in there prior to that, and it was
It's
too restrictive.
restrictive. It is
Yeah,
restrictive. So
yeah.
you have to decide if you want it.
Let's leave it out.
Let's leave it out, and again, as, the concept has to come back to the table, and when they design their building, they're gonna know what they're gonna be able to do to be able to get their financing to make it work. The 20%, whether it's on the first 4 floors or the first floor, however they work it, they might just cut up 1 floor and just have enough rooms that they can do it.
And there's actually nothing prohibiting them from using more than that for hotel rooms.
Right. One more question, John. Apparently, CAFRA has moved the setback line where you have to
Yes.
step from the bulkhead out onto the beach somewhere?
Yes,
How far?
I'm not sure, Roger.
I think it's the toe of the dune,
To the what?
To
toe of the
to
dune.
toe of the dune, so that,
What's that mean?
where the dune, where the beach is
Where-
flat, and it starts going up.
So the inside toe?
yeah.
Go down to that.
So that
Landward
would give
side.
them more
Yeah.
height?
Yes.
You know how many, much more, or we don't know that yet?
No, because.
So we'll have to see the drawings.
Yeah, because you still, doesn't the 2-for-1 rule still exist?
Yes, it does.
Yes, they just moved the goal line from where it starts.
Right, exactly. And
So-
Jennifer's
We
approval.
went to the Canadian Football League now.
Well, we had preliminary plans 5 years ago, and it was as high as it could go, but this is going to go higher than that because the line has been moved out for the
Don't
shadow.
we have a restriction on height?
Yes, we do. The restriction is it can't be higher than any other building in that overlay district.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right, but they won't even,
So
they
we're
won't,
looking at the
touch it.
highest would be 200 foot.
it's not,
Island
it can't
house
be
is
as high as the
200
other
foot.
houses, right? It's just higher than what
That
they
answers that.
showed us. Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you, Chairman.
For everyone's intent and purposes, that the area I have highlighted in yellow is the only permitted area to have this.
Does that mean that the Island House could take any amount and set them up as hotel rooms? I'm asking the man that knows.
We would welcome them to convert.
Okay. But would they have to go 20%? Okay,
What was that, yes?
Yes.
okay. So where were we? Did that answer your question? You started.
I don't remember what my question was. Yes. Yeah, yes, yeah.
I do want to point out in item number 10 of the overlay, it says specific conditions underpinning the approval of resort hotels shall be memorialized in a master deed for the development, as well as any individual deeds for investment condominium units or ownership condominium units, which deed shall be properly recorded with the Atlantic County Clerk. The inclusion of such language and the recording of such deeds shall be made a condition of approval by the planning board. So we're covered, the city is
Okay.
protected, the ownership is protected.
Any other discussion? Do you have anything else, Roger, or any other?
For the overlay zone,
No, for the whole thing.
I think it's probably prudent to discuss parking requirements. For hotels, we require one space for each hotel room.
That's a lot. Don't we have RSIS requirements? Isn't it .8?
Not for hotels.
Is that RSIS, one?
Part of it is. RSIS is residential.
Oh, well, I came up against something when we were building a hotel, and it was,
It was probably ordinance, local ordinance. No, RSIS refers to all residential site improvement standards.
so hotels are always, okay.
One additional change that we just made was for restaurant parking requirements. It used to be one for each 5 seats. Now we changed it to one for 10 seats to promote the future Washington corridor, pedestrian corridor. I think you're going to see a lot of walk-up business to these restaurants. So it just made sense.
Roger, in the hotels, if they have a restaurant, they have to provide parking for both uses, right?
Correct, yes.
Well, doesn't this have to have commercial on the first floor anyway?
Yes, because of the hotel concept.
Right.
You have to have a 24-hour desk, 7 days a week, yes, it's commercial.
Oh, that makes it commercial. They don't have to have a restaurant.
First floor, because if they had parking on the
Right.
first 3 or 4 floors, going up to, it could be on the 4th.
So they don't have to have a restaurant in this if it was built?
No, they don't
Okay.
have to.
The commercial is the hotel?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
But if they wanted to put a restaurant, it could be located on the 4th and 5th floor, and that's where the lobby would be considered, where the elevators, and that's where
Right.
the access for people to do business.
Thank you.
Would there be any storefronts?
It could be.
There could be. They're allowed commercial.
You know, you could.
Well, it sounds to me like, the way you read this, that it's almost required to have storefronts.
No, it says if you have storefronts, they have to look like storefronts.
Okay, that's what it's saying? All right.
Yes.
Does everybody get that?
Yep. Has to look like a storefront.
In other words, on the first floor, yeah, if you're gonna put a store, you can't just like, it has to have glass in the front or.
Entrance.
You know, like the Margate Towers or whatever.
there is a picture that encourages.
Well, that's the parking. I didn't see that one in there, but I saw the parking thing, which I guess we're gonna discuss. I mean, when you say stuff like encourage and discourage, that's a little, you know what I'm saying? That's, but I guess when these projects come to the board, we're gonna talk.
Again, when you
about
say
that.
encourage and discourage, it's not an ordinance. It's just,
Right.
it's not a requirement, but it kind of gives a heads up to the developer, say, hey,
This is what the board's looking for.
exactly.
Right.
Clear some more front glass areas to display the nature of the use within.
Right, yeah. I just think it's important. I mean, I really want to see somebody do a hotel. I've been saying that for years, and I think we should open it up down the road to a couple other areas, maybe along the bay, because I think that would really help service those restaurants and bars that, like, you know, are dead in the winter. But that being said, I just think that the less, you know, and like everybody said, when the developers come, they're gonna come to the board. So let's, you know, just try to keep the restrictions to a kind of a minimum.
Are we restricted on the bay for any new, if there's not a building there, like, say Blue Water Marina, could he put a restaurant in there?
No.
We passed an ordinance that restricts any development for 90% of those lots. The only thing where there is an existing structure, like Blue Water, it's 20 by 20. He can only develop that 20 by 20. He can raise it to come above flood elevation.
Right.
But he can't do anything beyond the profile. That's, Roger, am I correct?
Yes.
Well, how did Andy and the other one come out onto the parking area? They owned it?
They owned it, and they met the CAFR requirements for the
But Blue
setback.
Water doesn't own the street?
No.
The city owns it.
Oh, okay, that
We
takes
own
care of that.
Most of those lots in that whole stretch, and to appease the Harbor Vista residents, they asked us, and we did an amendment to the ordinance that we discussed originally to say that there could be no further development. And again, we want to keep those parking
Right.
spaces for our marinas,
Right.
and for other use, and for our restaurants. So with that said, that's pretty well covered.
Thank you.
Nothing can happen beyond the footprint that exists. There's no footprint, nothing can be done.
Roger, this is ordinance number 17. Did 18 take the place of this one?
It's listed twice. I'll have to check that. Section 175-30, just some clarifications. We added quite a bit of language on driveways. We're going to require driveways to be set back 1 foot from the property line to avoid, hopefully, a lot of phone calls to my office.
What does that mean?
What number's that?
175-30.
Could you draw that for me?
So Roger,
The driveway has to go all the way out to the street.
Right.
7512.
Property line.
Where's the street?
17.
Oh, this property. I think this property.
No.
This property. Yes.
It used to be like this.
Yes.
Now it's going to be like this. So they have an area in here where it's neutral territory.
Yes.
so are
All the way in
you,
the back?
Roger, so it says that the driveway's gotta be a minimum of 10 feet now, right?
Yes.
So is it, in reality, is it gonna be 11 feet?
It'll
Or
be
do you
11.
just have to have it,
Be 11 foot.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, it says the driveway is a maximum.
No. I don't think so.
Single residential driveway should be a maximum of 10 feet wide.
Maximum.
Maximum.
It's gotta be 1 foot off the line.
It's got to be 1 foot off the line.
Maximum.
Oh, maximum?
Yeah.
That's 11 foot to your building.
Wait a minute, but,
You could still have 10 feet. You could have 9 feet and 1 foot.
Says minimum.
Says, they changed it to maximum.
It's, you're looking at the.
You're looking at the old one.
Oh,
wait,
I should have,
no, I have it.
okay.
so what is the minimum a driveway has to be?
A parking space is 9 by 18.
It's been 9. Now
I
it's
know.
got to be 9 plus a foot.
Okay, so, all right. That's-
That way, when people put a fence down the middle of the driveway,
Right.
there's
Yeah,
the Hatfields and McCoys.
Yeah.
okay, so it's 9 plus a foot, so now it's basically 10 foot,
Right.
which is good, yeah. Okay,
So
And the cement can only be up to 9, right?
right,
As long as it's a foot off the property line, it doesn't matter to me.
The only thing I got to say about that is, and this goes back to the stone thing, I mean, when you have that 1 foot area, it's tough to irrigate that or keep that up. So why don't we, I don't know if it's too whatever, but why don't we just allow people to put stone in between there?
No,
Why?
it's ugly.
Well, it's ugly when the grass all gets brown too, because they're not irrigating it.
Well, when you have sprinklers, it irrigates the whole thing.
Okay.
Everybody doesn't
Come look at my house.
One of the other items that we did discuss before on several occasions is item number 3, on lots with alternate access, meaning rear access, driveway shall be located on the rear access only. This will eliminate new curb cut openings on streets that provide plenty of on-street parking.
For example, Cedar Grove?
Cedar Grove Avenue.
Is there any curb cuts there now?
They're growing.
There are some on Cedar Grove? Well, there won't be any more.
No, not after this.
There's one. Chapman's got one, isn't
Yes. We also have a design standard for ribbon driveways where we tell them how wide the tire strips are instead of
Well, that makes
coming in on a
sense.
plan
That's not problem.
of 12 inches wide and it comes out at 4 feet wide.
We're gonna start charging for zoning review?
Yes. We're probably the only town in New Jersey that doesn't.
Right, well, I'm just saying. So it's gonna be 300, huh?
It'd be 600.
No, that depends on the architect.
One of our goals is to get rid of the height regulating map, and probably the next round of changes will do that. But one less map to review for building height would be beneficial to all.
We're not getting rid of building heights, we're getting rid of
The building height map, the building height's gonna be regulated in here now
okay.
versus looking at another map
All right.
that many people still aren't aware of.
Roger, would you elaborate on what you just said, next round of changes?
We'll discuss that at the end of this. We're also requiring the 1 foot setback for accessory buildings such as a shed. Again, it's causing problems, and I've been allowing stones around a shed because they don't make lawnmowers that are 12 inches wide. Just works better for everyone.
Can we do it with the pavers instead of stones?
No.
Stones will be,
No.
Over top of sand or not?
the other important thing I would like to highlight is we're going to permit third floor decks everywhere oceanward of Atlantic Avenue.
Did you change the wording on that in the definitions?
Did I? Yes. Because it said beach blocks, well, somebody might argue, well, that's not a bleach block. So this way it's clear. Everything that side of Atlantic Avenue is third floor decks are permitted.
But originally in the,
It said beach blocks.
no. Houses facing the ocean or the bay, did you change that?
That's changed.
Okay.
We just changed that this week.
Okay.
We clarified the size of outdoor showers. It's basically the same, but it's clear how the square footage of it.
The wall has to be clear, you said? Or it's clear how you?
Yeah,
what?
it all has to be clear. No,
I
it has
must
to be
have
4 by
misunderstood
32, 4 by 8 or 32 square feet. Before it was kind of, you had to backdoor it and figure out what the dimensions were. We also addressed emergency generators, where they can be located, where they can't be
3
located.
feet off the property line?
Yeah. Yeah.
That becomes trouble sometimes.
Hmm?
It becomes trouble sometimes
What?
to get that 3 feet in for a shower.
On a 5 foot property?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it should be 2 feet. What do you think, Mike?
you got a 5 foot setback and that's the only place you can put a shower.
Right, so if you have a 2 foot,
Then you got a
then
2
you,
foot
then you can
shower.
have a 3 foot shower.
I'd say without a grading plan, I don't recommend that.
So what?
Without some type of a grading plan and drainage, proper drainage, that water's gonna be ending up on a neighbor's property, and Jimmy's gonna get a phone call, and
Well, can't we, I don't know, let's say, what I've done is do like a, you know, a French drain, like dig off do a French drain underneath the shower, and then put a platform on it.
Right, but sometimes they'll bring in fill and the house next door is a foot lower, then when the guy takes a shower, his property still floods out. French drain or not.
Make it a condition that they use like a popcorn drain. They're about 16 inches in diameter
Or you leave it the way
and
and
they're
that's
20
something they
foot
have to get
long.
a variance.
Seen them? Just put one in down there, beautiful.
Yeah.
Expensive?
I think we ought to look at that
$500.
next, later.
Because we're gonna have 2-foot showers.
No, that was just for the drain.
And again, we clean up the fees and minor site plan fees. We actually updated those with escrows to reflect the actual cost of reviewing these applications. Some of the other, what I used to call silly ordinances go away, such as we got rid of the minimum distance between external walls of principal buildings where they had to be 10 foot before, or the next door neighbor causes a hardship on the property even though it's fully compliant. That goes away. Done. The other big one I think will be very helpful to the community is Schedule B. Might have a smaller version of it. We had a hard time. Schedule B1, the last 5 stars. We're going to give people an extra 8 feet to put a garage in underneath if they want to use a garage for parking.
Extra 8 feet or 8 feet?
Extra 8 feet from existing grade.
I missed that.
You mean if there could be an elevation 12, you're gonna let them go to elevation 20 to put a,
No.
you're gonna allow them to have 8 feet garage?
If they have an existing grade is, say, elevation 5,
Right.
and the BFE is 8, so they had to go to
They can go 8 over the 5, over the
8
existing.
over to 5.
Yes,
The height will be measured from 9 feet, finished first floor.
right.
This would promote garage use underneath. Not everybody's going to want it, but it's available now without a variance.
And they can't have a garage out, detached garage, correct?
Right, if they have one, they can't have the other.
If that's what you want, we can include that in there.
Yeah.
That's
We,
the whole
we
point.
discussed that, yeah.
Yeah,
You
we
get-
did discuss
you
that,
get more,
Roger.
you get more landscaping, and we discussed that.
I think what we had discussed was no garage, more landscaping, no additional driveway, and also moving their storage in so they wouldn't be putting storage sheds out back because you have the rest of the bottom of the house.
I don't think that's what we discussed. I think
don't
what we
remember the storage
discussed
shed.
is that
I
if
thought
you
we
had, you could still have a garage separate, but then it became part of the,
Covered.
I think you're
Coverage.
right. It
Yes.
became
Yeah.
part of the coverage, that's what it was.
yeah,
Say that.
which I'm fine with.
It became part of the coverage. That is what we discussed.
So you're allowing 2 garage?
The detached garage now does not count as coverage.
As building coverage.
It would be building coverage. If you put the garage under the house, it would be counted as building
So you're
coverage.
allowing 2 garages, but
Yes.
making them
Right.
More
Pocket.
restrictive, because you're gonna.
There's no incentive to have both.
Yeah.
Most houses
It's
now are
good.
built to maximum coverage, and it doesn't include the
Right.
garage. If they add the
Right.
garage, they're gonna
gonna
make the
really
house
squeeze
smaller,
the
so
house.
it's not
Almost
gonna,
eliminate them.
Right.
effectively, very few cases will there be a second garage. If they have enough land, or they wanna make the house that much smaller, they can do it.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if do you want that? Do you want, if someone has an underneath garage and we're giving them the extra 8 feet to do it, shouldn't you say no additional garages?
If you want the additional garage, it counts as coverage. It's gonna wipe out 99% of it.
Nobody's gonna,
No
hardly
one's gonna
any,
do it.
because they're gonna have all that storage space anyway,
Besides
underneath
the
the
garage.
house. So, yeah, I don't, let's not get too technical. I don't think it's the end of the world if for some oddball reason, somebody wants to build a detached garage and then underneath.
But they have to meet the requirements.
And the
if-
garage, the detached garage has gotta be all the way at the back of the house anyway, so,
They'd have to have a really big property.
yeah.
And then what do we care if it's a really big property?
Right.
The rest of the items, just clean up some of the other items. We have some design standards now that we didn't have before for the CBD zone.
Foundations.
Changed up the trees, no more ground repairs.
Please.
Well, does anybody have any more questions about the zoning changes presented before you?
I think you got everything that we talked about in there.
Okay. On the new business? Or do you want to, actually, you got to think about,
So we can vote on this ordinance as amended?
Yeah, what we have to do is make a determination that this ordinance as amended is consistent with the master plan, and we have to send a consistency report to the governing body. It is consistent and recommending that they adopt the ordinances
Okay.
with these certain changes. So I could frame that motion. That's our job. At some point, there's a couple people here, we should maybe ask anyone, we should open up to the public, I don't know.
Okay.
If you want to do it now or at the end?
No, well, if we're gonna have a motion, then we need to do it before the motion.
Yeah, okay.
Anyone want to come forward with any questions or comments?
Except for architects, they're not allowed.
Mr. Weiss, just state your name and address, I'll swear you in real quick.
Peter Weiss, 101 North Washington Avenue, Margate.
Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thanks.
Just one quick question. You said you were going to start charging $300 for a zoning review?
400.
400, whatever. So, in most cases, we go to the board, if we get approvals, and then I resubmit it to Roger before they actually get, take the construction drawings and give them to Roger, and then he approves them again. So you're effectively going to be hitting the clients for $400 after they've already been approved by the board?
I think the intent of that would be that if you had planning board approval, we wouldn't be hitting you with that fee.
Okay.
Because I would view it as being, it's a compliance review.
Okay, that was it.
Nice and short. Thanks, Pete.
Public portion is closed. Could you read, is this a motion?
Yes, someone needs to make a motion that ordinance, a motion determining that ordinance 17-2018 is consistent with the master plan and recommending that we transmit a consistency report in the form of a resolution to the governing body recommending that they adopt the ordinance with those changes we discussed, which I believe mostly had to do with the garages, changing the 5 feet to 3 feet as the distance between the house and the garage, measuring the setbacks for the garage from the face of the building, and noting that if you have an underneath garage and you put a second one on, it counts as coverage. And within that motion, we should also authorize that the resolution be prepared, executed by the chairman, and transmitted to the governing body prior to our next meeting in September, if necessary, depending on what the governing body's timeline is, so that I can prepare something and Rich can come in next week and sign it.
I'll make that motion as stated by our solicitor, Mr. Manos.
I'll second.
There's 9 of us here, so all 9 people can weigh in and vote.
Roll call? Let's do a roll call.
Yeah, sure.
Tom Collins?
Yes.
Clem?
This discussion tonight has been very interesting. Have to excuse me. I got the mother of all colds. That's why I'm sitting over here. Joanna had given me last week a copy of what I thought was to be the only changes. But apparently from one hearing tonight, there are a lot more changes. So I've done a lot of reviewing of what I thought was going to happen, which apparently now is changed, and I was prepared to vote against it because as presented to me, I did not think it was in the best interest of Margate. But now Roger says there's going to be further discussions and more changes, which I would hope I could participate in. Because originally when I went through the ordinance, before any of this happened, I had over 200 notations on it of things that I thought needed to be addressed. But considering that we're getting another shot at it, I will reluctantly vote yes.
Rich Patterson,
Yes.
Mike Cristaldi,
Yes.
Jim Galantino,
Yes.
Margaret Gubernalti,
Yes.
Craig Palmisano,
Yes.
Despina Hess,
Yes.
Joe DiGirolamo,
Yes.
Michael Richmond.
Yes.
Okay. Passes, we'll submit it to the governing body.
New business, Roger?
New business. I do want to mention one thing. As I was taking Johanna's role tonight, I was getting the placards out, and I came across Mr. Carter. I just want to say the planning board misses him and his family. I hope they are coping, but he's not forgotten. On brighter, cheerier stuff, we're going to revisit the master plan for a couple minor changes. One of them being the forestry management plan. I think we're going to expand on that a little bit. And the other item is to make sure that we look at the waterfront special district and riparian zone along Amherst Avenue and make sure we're consistent with that. I think that was overlooked, and when we changed the zoning ordinance, I think we clearly corrected a mistake, but I think we want to make that part of the master plan. And then after that, there's some other, you're aware that we want to add all these other additional zones as mentioned in the master plan as it exists today. I think we want to bring that to light again. So that'll be some of the zoning changes that we desperately need to clarify. That concludes the changes.
I,
Would that be at a regular meeting, or will we do a special meeting for that?
It could be at a regular meeting. Right now, I'm soliciting a price from our consultant to develop that. It's a minor change. I mean, we could probably handle it in-house, but I'd rather not, since they have the bulk of the material already. We could probably have first reading and first review in September, final adoption in October. And then simultaneously, we can also do the zoning changes.
I think everybody here would agree, you should tell your consultant that we've already paid them enough, they should do it for free.
Well, I think they did a pretty good job, and with all the rewrites and all that, that they kind of bit on their own. I think it's good.
You talking about RMV?
Talking about our consultant, yes.
Say again?
Yes.
Yes.
I have a question. I know I've missed a couple meetings over the last year, but did any water park people ever come before the board asking for any variances?
I would like to be clear on that they did reach out to me as a zoning officer to meet with me and maybe a member of the board and maybe a governing body member, just to present an idea.
Did they ever come before the board? Did the board ever have a meeting stacked with people in favor of it? Did the board ever take any action on this?
There has never been any application, there has never been any submission, nothing has taken place other than a design concept which we looked at and said when they're ready to present something, come in with an application.
So then what's been presented to the city is just an outright lie?
What's been in the paper is not accurate.
Thank you.
You mean it's fake news?
Fake news.
Okay.
Flake news, did you say? Any other new business?
Can I bring something up?
Yes.
I think I might get chased out of town with a baseball bat.
On the water.
This, does this qualify, Mike?
It's qualified. No, don't use that on me.
Croquet.
There's the S-25 of Monmouth Avenue to Amherst from, say, Vendome. Can we change that to like an S-30? Is that possible, or will I really get run out? Our density's getting crazy around there. And I mean, I'm on a double lot in that area. So, and I'm willing to say for Margate's sake, man, our density's getting crazy back there.
Everywhere.
You know,
Well, that's a pretty big issue. We can just, if we can bring that up at a later time, I mean, we can't come up with
will it
anything
cripple-
tonight.
By doing that, you're gonna create a lot of non-conforming properties.
There you go. I mean,
You'll be busy in 2020.
I think that would be challenging.
Be here for 6 hours.
it's just,
The driveways are gonna make the houses a little bit.
it's getting jammed up back there.
It's the same, 10-foot?
Now, your street's ridiculous now.
The garage is underneath, you're saying.
Oh, with the garages underneath, yeah.
Well, while we're at new business, the sliding scale of building coverage, I think, is ridiculous. I think it should be a set amount. It should be 30% or 40%.
Take away pools.
Take away what?
Pools.
Take away pools.
Take away pools.
Yeah, coverage. Put them down there. And garages, everything.
So that pools,
talking about percentage of coverage.
he's saying.
For building.
Take away pools and they don't count as coverage.
No, they do.
Right, but you're saying take them away.
Pools didn't count as coverage, now they do count as coverage. Are you saying leave them as coverage or take it away as coverage?
Take it away.
Don't give them any more benefits. They just, all has to be grass. You never give them too much. It's like, now there's like a pool, a shower, and a garage,
An outdoor kitchen.
and an outdoor kitchen. I mean, it's crazy. Sounds like one house.
But if the pool counts as coverage, wouldn't that restrict it? Or you're saying?
I'm talking about building coverage, not lot coverage.
Right.
But right now, you have to, if you're in between, if you're greater than 2,500 or 3,000 square feet, you have to do calculations, and to me, a percentage of an area is a percentage of the area. Why should you get the benefit of more?
What is it, if you have more area, you
The
can cover?
sliding
Right.
scale was because if you had a oversized lot, you should be able to get more coverage on the lot,
But
right? If it was
But
over
you do,
60.
if it's
but you do.
30%.
It's 30% of 6,000 square feet. It's more than 30% of 4,000 square feet.
You do get a bigger building.
Right? It's a ratio, no matter how you look at it, but you're giving them more. You're creating a larger percentage on smaller lots.
Makes sense.
I mean, this is the only town I've seen that has a sliding scale like that.
All right, well, that's not part of this either, but that's.
No, but it's
we
something
can-
I think-
Is that
something we need
something we
to
could talk
discuss.
about and add on? And I think it would be beneficial to the board members to show, okay, here's a sample lot. This is what they get now. This is what they would get, so we can see, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think visually, if we can see that, it'll be really helpful.
And I know I mentioned it before, but the other thing that we really need to look at is the front yard setbacks. With the averages of 200 feet, it changes by the week. I think it should be we talked about it before, maybe a percentage like lot depth for the rear yard should be treated the same as the front yard or have a hard number.
And then every lot's individual, it's not dependent on neighbors.
Correct. Well,
Plus,
somebody
it
wants to
takes away
do
a
add-on to their
hardship
porch,
for
they have to go out and
homeowners.
spend $500 for a front yard setback survey, just to say, so I can tell them no. Or yes.
Mostly no.
Joe?
Yes, was brought up about Airbnbs. I was wondering if we could at least do a restriction on the amount of time, because they're not coming in for COs. There's a safety problem with that. And if we did them to, maybe limited them to 30 days or 2 weeks.
Is that a board matter, or is that?
I don't know, I'm
building
asking a
department
question.
matter? That's what I'm asking. I said,
Okay.
I don't know if that's a board matter.
I don't know how you police it.
Roger has an opinion.
It's not a
Okay.
zoning,
That's not a zoning issue, really.
it's a governing body.
So that's not something that we address.
That's them. I don't know how you would police it anyway.
It would have to come through the commissioners under the rental
inspection.
or
They
housing
just don't get a
ordinance,
final inspection.
which every other town is doing.
Yes, I've seen other towns do it.
All right, so we'll just throw that problem to Amadeo. We don't have to worry about it?
got it.
Okay, thank you.
That'd become my problem.
That is Jimmy's problem. All right, anything
Just
else?
like anything else, it's becoming abused, so
Rolls down there.
Big time.
Anything else?
I have nothing further.
Motion to
I'll
adjourn?
make a motion.
Second.
Voting adjourned.
Aye.
Good job.
Yeah.
Eat that.